All right, Bubba, start cleaning those tires up. On green this time. Remember, they fan out down there, so protect them bottoms. Sunday drive. All right, boss man. Face car's off. Be ready. All right, Bub, be ready. Gas that bitch up. Ready, ready. Green flag. Green, green, green.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Inside Pass. I'm Randy Miller. It's an unfamiliar voice, I know. I haven't been here in like a month, but that's okay. I'm back now. Tom is joining me as always. Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic is going to join us here in a little bit. There is lots and stuff to talk about. Last week, Tom, we had this little lull of nothing happening, and all of a sudden Monday hits, and it's like, hey, let's do some news. Let's get some stuff out there.
Well, last week was the week where everybody was talking about what was supposed to happen this week. That's really what last week was.
Like, we previewed the week ahead.
We did. That's really, I mean, this show last week, I basically forecasted everything that's going down this week. And, it wasn't that I had a magic genie or anything or magic 8-ball. It was just these were the trends. And we're starting to see now some things being made official that we all knew were coming.
Yeah, we will have more on all of that here in a second when Jordan calls. The major story, I guess the top news story, is something that broke this morning, that Erik Jones is now officially signed with Richard Petty Motorsports. He will be their new driver, taking over the 43 from Bubba Wallace, who's going to drive the new team that Denny Hamlin is not starting with Michael Jordan and that whole debacle. But good for Erik Jones. He's still a fairly young kid. I guess the unfortunate side of this is Toyota loses another good development driver to lack of rides or whatever the case may be. But he's going to a team, Tom, that Bubba has done good things with that team. I feel like Erik is going to do better with that team just because of the sheer fact that if you look at the numbers, Erik has done more recently than Bubba has. And, the 43 is a good competitive car, at least a top 10 car. I feel like Erik's going to be able to compete for wins.
I'm of the belief that Erik equals Bubba.
Yeah, okay.
Excuse me. In terms of talent and skill set, I think Bubba has gotten 100% out of the cars that he's been given. I think they're a borderline top 10 team, but I think right now they're mostly a 15th to 20th place team. And I think that's where Bubba's been running. They're a team that is still in need of some sponsorship. Randy, to be able to take that last step to an elite team. I'm praying that Erik, he's a clean-cut, well-spoken, very talented, kind of driver. He should be marketable, but then we all thought Bubba would too, and that it didn't start well, and then this year he finally started to see some of that come in. I'm just thinking that I think Erik he'll get everything out of the car. The thing I love about this is, number one, I think it's a perfect fit from a personality and a character standpoint between Erik and the King. But two, I also think that Erik gets the benefit of a one-car organization where everything's focused on him. And I think he comes in at a time when the organization is the best it's been in a number of years.
Oh, yeah,
so sure. I do think all of that adds up to the potential for success there. But I think they got a ways to go. Can they win on a super speedway? Yes. I think they've got a ways to go before they can win on the smaller tracks.
Well, let's bring on an even better expert in this whole situation. He is a writer for The Athletic, and one of our good friends, Jordan Bianchi, is on the StrutMasters.com hotline. Jordan, we were talking about Erik Jones in the announcement this morning that Erik is now going to drive the 43 for Richard Petty Motorsports. Tom and I both believe that in terms of talent, they are both equal in terms of what they can bring to the table. But I personally feel like that RPM is going to be in a better situation. Erik has more recent wins than Bubba does, and being a one-car organization, they can focus solely on getting Erik Jones the equipment he needs. He's proven he can be a great competitor out on the racetrack, and we feel like he just kind of fits that whole mold that RPM needs as somebody as clean-cut like Erik is. What are your thoughts?
I think RPM is getting a tremendous talent in Erik Jones. I'm a big believer in Erik and what he can do in the racetrack. I think talent-wise, he's one of the most talented young drivers in the upper echelon of NASCAR right now. I think they're getting a driver in Erik Jones who will allow them to be more consistently competitive And that's not to diminish what Bubba Wallace can do. I think Bubba is a very good race car driver as well, and Bubba can win races in the right situation. The RPM, the current situation with RPM is difficult. I mean, you guys kind of touched on it, but they are a single car team. They have limited resources, and there is kind of a ceiling on what they can do consistently, and you have to have a driver who can really, if you're going to reach that upper level, you have to have a driver come in there and be able to just kind of lift you up and carry you. I think Eric can do that. It's going to be different for him. It's going to be a much different situation than he's been used to, because he's been with big teams. He's been with teams that have a multitude of personnel and resources and depth. That's not necessarily the case at RPM, but I do like the foundation that they have there. I like what RPM has done this year. They've had really a sneaky good season. Obviously a lot of attention has been focused on what Bubba Wallace has been doing all for the racetrack and all of the good he's putting his attention on. But on the racetrack, he and that team at RPM have done a really good job. They've had a good year. They've had some parts failures, which have helped them, and that's part of the issue there. But the foundation is there for Eric to come in and continue what RPM started this year.
So we'll talk about Bubba in a second, because I want to see if you know the latest on the whole situation with Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's team. But we were talking about Toyota and how over the last several years, Toyota has lost a lot of good development talent to other teams, where it be, certain teams pulling their alliance from them, or just, other brands getting a hold of the good drivers, like in this case Chevrolet with Eric Jones. So in your opinion, what does Toyota need to do to hang on to some of these kids that are down in the Xfinity Series, down in the Truck Series, down in the ARCA Series, that want to be up in Cup, in the next 5 or 6 years with no rides to go to? Because, Toyota has a pretty young team at the upper Cup level right now, and it's going to take 5, 6, 7 years for these guys to move on to other rides, so there's no place for these young kids to go right now.
Yeah, that's been the ongoing thing for Toyota really since it entered NASCAR in 2007, and it's an issue. I wrote extensively about it this summer on The Athletic, and you can go back and look at that. Right now it is just Joe Gibbs Racing. That is really what they have. Now, throughout different points, Toyota has tried to develop that second team, whether it was Michael Waltrip Racing, whether it was Furniture Row Racing, whether it was Levine Family Racing. Toyota has tried to cultivate that second big organization to go alongside Joe Gibbs Racing. So you've got 4 seats at Joe Gibbs Racing, and then you would have another team that could have upwards of 4 teams as well. And for various reasons, some of them in their control, many of them out of their control, it hasn't worked. Michael Waltrip Racing closed its doors. Furniture Row Racing closed its doors. LFR is closing its doors. So it's been tough, and it's been costly for Toyota, because they are losing. They have lost talent. They lost Joey Logano. They lost Eric Jones. They potentially could lose some other drivers along the way. Let's add William Byron to that list that they've lost. So until you get that second team to go up and running and continue to be operational year after year alongside Joe Gibbs Racing, you're going to have a max on what you can do. What Ford has been able to do is Ford has 2 big teams, in Team Penske and Stewart-Haas Racing. Both of those are up and running, and they have ability to have upwards of 8 drivers, even more when you factor in affiliate teams like the Wood Brothers or Front Row Motorsports. And then you've got Chevrolet, which has got a multitude of teams. So it comes down to Toyota figuring out a way to have that second big team to go alongside Joe Gibbs Racing. That's a lot easier said than done, but that's the big hurdle they have to clear.
Yeah, and I think it is a big hurdle, and I think it's an interesting hurdle, and I almost feel like, I look at what Toyota is doing, and you'd say, well, gosh, it's not like they don't know, and so I wonder, does Toyota really care? Are they more interested in just bringing in as many kids as possible and then seeing which ones end up being their stars and then just taking care of them and letting the rest go? Do they really care at this point? I think the manufacturer that really is the one out of the 3 that, in my opinion, is doing it right is Ford. I think Chase Briscoe is the proof of that. I think you're going to see Ford at some point. I would guess they'll probably expand that development a little bit. and bring in a couple of more drivers. But I think they were real careful to sort of make sure that they took care of Chase, and I think they used Chase in a way as their kind of proof of concept, and it worked out great. They really put a lot of time into him, a lot of investment on the dirt or on the pavement, the NASCAR side as well as the sports car side. I feel like they did it right with him, and I think that's a good harbinger of what a proper NASCAR development model from a manufacturer should look like, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's some truth in what you're saying, and I agree with that to an extent. And I will say this: Ford's program is largely modeled after what Toyota's done, which is get drivers young, develop them on grassroots programs, dirt cars, sprint cars, that kind of thing. Build them up, get them some road racing experience, and then kind of farm them out and bring them up to the Truck Series, then the Xfinity Series, and then into Cup. Toyota will tell you that if they can find one superstar driver, that next Kyle Busch, it makes it worth it.
Yeah.
And that it's okay to lose some of the other guys. I think Toyota deserves a lot of credit because, yes, they've lost a lot of talent, and they've seen guys go elsewhere, but they have also, before Toyota started developing drivers, this wasn't happening. Driver developmental programs had really largely stopped in NASCAR because the teams and manufacturers didn't feel like it was worth it, and it was a money-losing proposition. Toyota came in and said, you know what, we need to figure out a way to develop young talents. We have a pipeline, so when we have to replace somebody, we don't have to scramble, and that was largely about because they lost Kyle Larson to Chevrolet back in 2011-ish. And so, yeah, I mean, you look at it and you're going, man, you lose a lot of talent, but you also look at it and go, they've had some success. I mean, Eric Jones has come up and he's won some races for them at the Cup level. Christopher Bell, I think, is a next-generational talent, and he's going to be very successful for Joe Gibbs Racing. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. You would like to see more teams, and you'd like to see more drivers, young opportunities. I am happy, though, that we are now to a point, though, where talented young drivers are getting opportunities, and it's still, yes, drivers with sponsors are still getting rides and everything, but you look at a guy like Chase Briscoe, a guy like Christopher Bell, they don't have the funding behind them, but yet they're getting opportunities because they frankly deserve them. That, to me, is a really encouraging sign.
Yep, and we can add Haley Deegan to that list, too, because she was also a Ford development driver who now is going to be full-time on the Truck Series next year. So, Jordan, hang on the line. We're going to talk to you again when we come back. I'm going to talk about Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace and all the other rumors that are going around right now. We're going to take a quick break. More with the Inside Pass right after this.
Hello, race fans. This is Chris Wright. Thanks for listening to these guys. Man, what some great radio hosts. You're listening to the Inside Pass.
Now, speaking of Chris Rice, he was in the news too this past week, so we'll get to his announcement of his team here in a little bit. But Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic is joining us on the strutmasters.com hotline talking about silly season. We talked about Eric Jones and the announcement this morning that he will drive for RPM Motorsports, taking the place of Bubba Wallace, which we all know, Jordan, that Bubba is going to eventually be announced as, well, he is announced as the driver for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's new team. We just don't know a whole lot about the team, other than what we think it's going to be called, which is MJXI, which is Michael Jordan 11, which is Denny Hamlin's car number. And we think it's going to be car number 23 because based on paperwork that was submitted to NASCAR, they wanted that number because it was Michael Jordan's number. Other than that, what do we know about this new impending team of Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan and Bubba Wallace?
It will be an alliance of Joe Gibbs Racing. They will field Toyotas. It will be a single-car team, and those particulars are likely to be announced relatively short order. They're going to have some familiars. Bubba has signed quite a few corporate partners the last few months. Those corporate partners are expected to be on the car as well. So it's exciting. I mean, anytime you got Michael Jordan coming in being involved in this, it certainly adds a little bit of not a little bit, but a lot of prestige and a lot of excitement. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds and how, Denny Hamlin is a terrific race car driver, but that doesn't always translate to being an owner. It has in some instances. Tony Stewart is one such driver who's made that transition. It'll be interesting to see how Denny handles that adjustment, but it's certainly going to be fascinating to watch this all unfold, but certainly exciting as well.
Yeah, I'm all for new teams in NASCAR. We've got that team coming in. We've got Trackhouse with Justin Marks coming in too. So I'm all for new teams coming into the sport because I think that's what we've lacked the last several years is having new, fresh teams on the horizon. And I think I've heard rumors of other people starting teams in the next several years. So I think by the time we get to the new car in 2022, we might be looking at full fields of cars again and people actually having to go home from qualifying. That would be exciting again.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, the new economic model that is coming in 2022 that's kind of going along with the next generation car that's going to be introduced has a lot of people encouraged. You talk to existing team owners, and they would tell you that they're excited because they feel like this is going to really save them some money in terms of day-to-day expenses. You talk to prospective owners or guys coming in now, and they are excited because it's affordable for them and that there's an avenue for them not to just own a team and just have a car out there, but to own a team, have a car out there, and be competitive, which isn't really it's really hard to do nowadays. So yeah, I mean, you want to see this, you want to see growth, and we kind of touched on it there in the first segment where you want to see drivers get opportunities with good teams. And the more cars you can get out there, the more competitive cars you can get out there, the more opportunities there will be. So it's encouraging. It ultimately is going to, it has to be proven that this new car and this new economic model that's kind of being put in place will work. But all signs are encouraging and point to it to working as expected.
I hope so. We need it. I think the cost of competition has gotten way too high, and the mega teams have way too much of an advantage over the front rows and the RPMs of the sport. And I think we've got to do everything we can to close that gap. Otherwise, some of these new teams are not going to be around for long. I think Michael Jordan coming into your sport and investing in your sport is a great way to attract a whole lot of attention. The next question is going to be, and it's going to take some time to answer this, how much staying power are they going to have? And, the key, I think, is going to be the people that they surround themselves with in terms of, who's actually going to run the team, and who they bring in to do the day-to-day stuff. Because we know that Michael Jordan's not going to be hands-on, and Denny Hamlin is not going to be hands-on too much in the beginning because he's got to drive. So I think whoever is brought in to oversee this whole thing, I think, is going to make the difference between success and failure here.
I agree 100%. I think you make some really great points, and I agree, is that it's going to, starting a team is one thing, but running it on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis is a completely another. And that's going to be the challenge. And we've seen a lot of owners over the years with a lot of money, a lot of guys with a lot of millions of dollars, even in some cases billions of dollars, come in and say, hey, I've got a plan. I know how to make this work. And frankly, they didn't, and they were gone. It is a challenge. Owning a NASCAR team is predicated on sponsorship, and obviously when you've got MJ and you've got Bubba Wallace, you have a great eye, and Denny Hamlin, you've got an opportunity to get some sponsors. But the proof is in the pudding. And, while everything is really encouraging and promising right now, what's year 2 like? What's year 3 like, down the road? That's going to be the question. You hope it works out, but, I'm not to be a cynic or anything. I feel like we've been down this road before with other people. Of course, they're not to MJ's level, but it's tough. You want it to work, but you also know the realistic hurdles that they face.
Yep, that's for sure. So Kyle Larson, of course, was reinstated a couple of days ago by NASCAR. We all knew that was coming. His suspension officially ends December 31st, so January 1st. He will be able to be back in NASCAR. So I guess the biggest question now is, when is the announcement that we all know, or at least we all think is going to happen, actually going to happen?
That's a great question. What I've been told is it's going to be a few weeks out. Let me rephrase that. It is expected to be a few weeks out, maybe even after the season. Obviously, that can change, and these things obviously always are fluid. But the expectation is in all signs pointing to Kyle Larson signing with Hendrick Motorsports with that team to drive what will likely be a renumbered number 88 car.
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing the 5 is what it looks like, and I would agree that it's probably a few weeks. I mean, we talked about it on our Motorsports Madness show last weekend. When that announcement drops, those of us on the inside who pay attention to racing are not going to be shocked, because we all expect it. It's like, I think a lot of us are almost fatigued at this point with the,
Come on, it's
already.
Like,
just get it over with so we can get, back to talking about racing. But this announcement, because of it involves Larson and things that happened, obviously, in the past, is going to get the attention of a lot of non-motorsports media, and that's going to be, I think they probably want to wait till after the season so it doesn't distract from the playoffs and the championship.
And that echoes what I've heard from people, is that, Hendrick Motorsports right now, they've got 2 drivers focused on winning a championship. Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, let's keep the attention on them. We also have another driver, 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson, who's going to be retiring. Let's keep the spotlight on him and not put it elsewhere right now. So, there is no rush. I mean, on their end, if they know who the driver is and they can work behind the scenes to get, do what they need to do to get ready for next year, it doesn't impact anyone else when they announce it. So, I would be very surprised, very shocked if Kyle Larson is not back full-time in NASCAR next year driving for Hendrick Motorsports.
It'd be the biggest, wool over the eyes, I think, in this case. Because it was, and Tom and I would both agree that when we didn't know who the driver was, it was fun. Because we were speculating on who we thought it might be. But then as more and more stuff started happening and we kind of started putting the pieces together, we're like, all right, well, now this is boring now. This is exactly. There's nothing else, there's nothing else going on. I feel like it's more of a distraction to the organization as a whole. I'm sure they all probably know what's going on, or have at least been told, hey, keep this under wraps, but this is what's going to happen. Because at this point, if you didn't tell your teams what was going to happen, it would be such a distraction to Alex Bowman and to Chase Elliott that I don't think that their teams would be able to concentrate on fully giving them their undivided attention to get them into the championship, for much less win a championship. So in terms of that, I'm sure the organization as a whole knows what's going on. But I think at a certain point, when people outside of the NASCAR spectrum start speculating, then maybe you should rethink your timeline of announcement, because at this point it's like, well, everybody knows now. Let's just get it over with, and that way we can all get back to what we were supposed to be doing. Because it does seem like a little bit of a distraction when you don't know, but you do know, but nobody's telling you that they know.
Yeah, and I think within the organization, I think like you said, it's pretty well known what direction everybody's headed in, and if they know, it's not impacting them and how they do anything.
Correct,
I mean, you still have 4 teams preparing the rest of the season. You've got 2 drivers in the championship, and so and it's not. You've already kind of have done the heavy lifting in some respects. I mean, the one announcement that was out there was Alex Bowman, who's going to replace Jimmy Johnson. That was the presiding. That was the that was the question that kind of overhung the season. And once that was out there and that kind of lingered for a little bit, that allowed everybody to kind of, it allowed Alex certainly to relax a little bit. He even kind of admitted it to some degree, and everybody kind of just to focus and say, okay, we got this out of the way. We know what else is going to happen, but that doesn't impact us and what we do on this year. So it's interesting how these deals come together and everything involved. But I have learned that everybody, a lot of people in NASCAR are very good at compartmentalizing and just focusing on the task at hand and not getting too sidetracked with the other stuff. And heck, we've even seen drivers, like Tony Stewart win a championship with a crew chief who had already been fired. So it is amazing how these guys and these teams are able to kind of just focus and not get sidetracked with the other stuff.
Yeah, I have it on good authority that a lot of my World of Outlaws friends and guys in the dirt world are hoping that Kyle Larson can find the pit exit in a hurry. So they're wanting him to hurry up and get the announcement out of the way so he'll go on and do other things and get distracted and stop winning all the races and winning all the money on the dirt world. But so before we let you go, I do want to ask you, the 2021 Cup schedule came out a few weeks ago. It's been tossed and turned and, all kinds of flip-flopped around. But not a lot of news has been said about the Xfinity and Truck Series schedules, and I didn't know if maybe you knew kind of where they wanted to go with the Truck Series and Xfinity Series schedule. I know I've heard several things about how they wanted the Truck Series to kind of go back to its short track routes and kind of do more short track stuff, but I don't know if that's true. Tom agrees with that as well. But I don't know. Usually the Xfinity and Truck Series schedules are kind of a few weeks behind the Cup Series, but I don't know if they're planning on doing the same thing to those schedules that they did to the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a process, and the Cup Series is obviously and understandably is the focus, and get that out there, and then from there, and then obviously with a lot of the dates, you're going to have a lot of companion races, that kind of thing. And like you said, the idea is to get the Truck Series kind of back to its roots a little bit. The unfortunate thing there is with COVID and some of the restrictions you have in place and how difficult it is to travel and that kind of thing. NASCAR is kind of handcuffed in some degree of what they can do and what kind of schedule they can lay out for the Xfinity and Truck Series, because having them have companion dates or having them have standalone races at some tracks is a challenge, because what do you do with the pit crews? How do you fly teams around and that kind of thing? So my understanding is it's going to be a few more weeks before those schedules are released. I think they're going to largely mirror kind of what we've seen the last year or so, maybe a few differences, a few tracks that are maybe not on the schedule, and maybe a couple of new ones. We know the Truck Series, for example, and the Xfinity Series, I believe, is going to race at COTA. And you're going to see those kind of things. It'll be interesting to see, but I think what this is this is the first step, or really one of many steps that NASCAR is taking just to try to revigorate some of these schedules a little bit and give them some more identity, some more uniqueness, and obviously some more variety. So I think what you're going to see going forward every year now with the schedule on all three national series is different tracks. Some years NASCAR is going to try this track, and then next year they may not, but then they may come back to it down the road. So there's just going to be, on a year-to-year basis, there is going to be some kind of evolution that's taking place.
I do think if we've learned nothing from the last 10, 15 years or so, it's that we need to keep things fresh. And I think I understood the idea behind the contract with the tracks that Brian France and his regime did. Certainly from a marketing standpoint, I get it totally. Sure. But on the other hand, I think from a fan standpoint, I think you need to change things up. And I also think you need to rediscover some smaller markets again that you kind of forgot about in the quest to become a mainstream sport. And I think especially with the Truck Series, even the Xfinity Series, there's probably some opportunities to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think NASCAR, to its credit, recognizes that the old approach wasn't working. And I admired their willingness to say, you know what, this isn't working, and we're going to try new things. It may not work everywhere, but we're sure as heck going to try and see if we can do it. And their commitment, both their commitment to do it and the willingness to spend the money to do it. I use Auto Club Speedway in California as an example of them turning that from a 2-mile track into a half-mile racetrack because there needs to be more short tracks. That's great. That's wonderful to see. And NASCAR is making it happen. They're putting their money where their mouth is. And I'm really excited, to be honest with you, about what the schedule is going to look like the next few years, because I know some of the things that they want to do. Street courses is often talked about. They just, obviously with the circumstances right now in the country and the world, you can't do that. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. And I like new. Like you said, it's good to have some traditional stuff. I'm a guy who Southern 500's got to be on Labor Day weekend.
Right.
Coke 600's got to be Memorial Day weekend.
Exactly.
But it's okay to change some of the other stuff around. And I'm excited about the direction NASCAR's headed.
Yep, for sure. Jordan, always a pleasure. Everybody go to theathletic.com and look at all the articles and stuff that he has written and writes, and keep doing great things, my friend, and we will have you on again maybe when all these other announcements start taking place.
Look forward to it, boys. Have a great day. I always appreciate it.
Thanks,
no problem. Jordan Bianchi, everyone. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back more of the Inside Pass right after this.
I'm Chase Elliott, and you're listening to the Inside Pass.
Welcome back to the Inside Pass here on WSIC. Thank you so much for watching us. If you're watching us on Facebook Live right now, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to scroll, not scroll past our news feed, video feed. If you're listening to us on the radio, it's Saturday morning of Texas Motor Speedway Race Week, and so we hope that you enjoy yourselves there. Just a programming note, the show will be on Facebook Live on Mondays starting next week. That's going to be an interesting change. But whatever, I digress. But you can still hear the show at the same time on WSIC Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., part of the Motorsports Power Hour. Power hour and a half.
90
minute power. That's what I was
hour.
trying to think of what it was called. Yes. That's what it's called.
You've been away a while.
With our good friend Lenny Baticki from PRN's At the Track, who was on
Motorsports
Madness last week. So, we're all a big family here, so we all have to, indulge ourselves in
we have a good time.
spreading the love and spreading the wealth. Last week, Tom was here. He talked to Anthony Alfredo. I had totally forgot to mention the fact that we started on WSSC a year ago last week. So this is essentially our season premiere, I guess, quote unquote, of year 2 of being on WSSC. So that's awesome, huh?
It is awesome. Yeah. Happy anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. And Anthony Alfredo was our first guest when we first started the show, and he was our, I guess, last guest of year 1. Last week, and he probably will never be on the show again because usually...
I'm not taking credit for that.
Usually when people come on the show, they go out and win, not flip over.
Justin Allgaier gets credit for that.
Yeah, Justin Allgaier gets credit for that. But yeah, Anthony Alfredo, a pretty scary crash at Kansas Saturday night. The funny thing is that he ended up going viral, but not because of the wreck, but because of what he said after the wreck, where he's like, flip me back over. I want to go back racing again. Well, but the car was not in one piece.
If you've known Anthony at all, which I have for a number of years now, and that's who Anthony is.
Yeah, of course.
He's a warrior,
yeah.
and never quits. So, unfortunately, the car was too badly damaged for him to do that. But yeah, that was too bad. Hated to see that for Anthony. He was having a great run. He's really, I think, proven his worth in the Xfinity Series in his rookie year on a limited schedule, part-time schedule with RCR. So, hope that he has better fate this coming weekend.
Yeah, is he in the car for the last two races?
Well, no. He's
just got Texas and
Texas is the last start this coming weekend. I think is his last start.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Myatt Snyder, I think, has got Martinsville and Phoenix coming.
All right.
Yeah.
Very, very good deal. Hopefully, one of those guys ends up in that ride full time next year, because I think any of the three, Alfredo, Myatt, or even Kaz Grala, would be deserving of that ride on a full time basis.
I think Myatt's going to have a full time ride. I'm not sure it's going to be at RCR, but we'll see.
Good for him. He certainly deserves that, especially after this year having two different cars and still nearly making the playoffs.
Yes.
So, speaking of 2021, three drivers already know what their fate is going to be when we head to Daytona in February. Justin Haley is the first guy on the list. He has re-signed with Colleague Racing. He will be their tier driver. He'll be their only driver right now.
I was going to say.
But he gets to come back for 2021. I'm still hoping that AJ Allmendinger at least runs a more than 5 race schedule next year. But they still have the 10 car out there and looking for a driver. And if I know Chris Rice, that car won't be empty long.
Well, I mean, again, when you look at who's left, you get back to the silly season deal, even in Cup. Corey LaJoie is a driver who's definitely in play. He's looking for something. You've got Ty Dillon out there who's looking for something. I mean,
and they do have an RCR alliance, by the way.
Well, right, but then you look at there's some drivers in Xfinity that you look at, and of course, again, I think Anthony's pretty well set with RCR. He's just trying to get full-time dollars. But, you look at somebody like a Kaz Grala, who I know also would like to stay at RCR, I'm sure. But again, Kaz Grala would be an example. Daniel Hemrick is a driver that might be a good fit for that car. There are a number of younger drivers who would be, it would be a great opportunity for them to get into a competitive car full time. So, we know Haley's back. We're sure Allmendinger's back at least, a handful of times. I think AJ loves TV, so I'm not sure he's really as excited about full time as maybe they would be about having him.
Right.
But time will tell. But there are a number of drivers that could be candidates. I think that 10 car is going to be that car and the 98 car in Xfinity are the two that'll be the most desired destinations for a number of racers, some of whom are currently in Cup and may need to drop down to find gainful employment for next year.
Yeah, or even just to refocus yourself, because a lot of times it helps to kind of back down a little bit and kind of rejuvenate yourself and refocus. And if anything, just kind of, it's the mental game of, I can still do this. Let me prove that I can still do this by being in a top quality Xfinity ride, and then maybe get my opportunity to go back to Cup.
Exactly.
With a better quality ride, again later on. So, also, aside from Justin Haley, Brandon Jones also announced that he's going to be back in the 19 car, the Xfinity Series car for Joe Gibbs Racing next year. So that's another young, talented driver that Toyota gets to keep, essentially. But somebody that I feel like kind of got lost in the spotlight a little bit because of Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe's dominance early in the season. He kind of got lost in the shuffle, although he's won a couple of races, but he's been there and been competitive all season long. So I think if you get the Stewart-Haas Racing cars out of the Xfinity Series, because last year it was Cole Custer, this year it's Chase Briscoe, but you get those cars out of there, or at least find a little bit more speed maybe in those cars, maybe a little bit more luck, because I know he's had a lot of bad luck too. I think he could be one of the potential guys that you have to watch for next year.
Well, I mean, look, Brandon is always a tough racer, and I think this has been his best season. And the thing I like about Brandon is that Brandon understands the situation he's in. He's got, sponsorship that comes with. He's with JGR. Just because they haven't dominated the last year or two like they have in the past, doesn't make them, not competitive. And Brandon getting 2 or 3 wins a year keeps him going. And I think eventually, if he wants one, there'll probably be an opportunity in Cup for him. But right now, I think he's happy just to be, again, back in a full-time Xfinity ride with a chance to run for the championship, in 2021.
Isn't he? Is he 19, 20?
No, he's, I think he's 21.
He's 21,
22.
so he's
Yeah,
still fairly, he's still
early
young.
20s.
So it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like he's in his late 20s or whatever. The other person on the list who has confirmed ride for next year is Haley Deegan. We talked about Haley earlier when Jordan was on, talking about the Ford development program and how much they've done to help Chase this year get into the Cup Series and get the 14 car. Haley kind of had a Ford development contract, and the DGR. Crosley had put her in some ARCA races, and she's done some other road course stuff and stuff with Monster Energy and with Ford. But this upcoming year, she's going to get the full-time ride in the it's the 17, I believe, that she's going to be in.
I think so.
Yeah. So she'll have Monster Energy as a sponsor. She'll have some other sponsors too. But great call. I think she's one of the people I feel like is going to do good things. It may take a couple of years, still some development stuff to happen, but I think she's going to be okay.
Well, yeah, again, and Haley is in no hurry. I think she understands that she is a work in progress. She doesn't want to rush. She wants to be competitive at every level she runs at. I think she's going to be in good equipment next year. So, again, if she's on a 2-year plan everywhere she goes, she's still in great shape. By the way, Brandon Jones, 23.
Oh, okay. He's a lot older than I thought he was.
24 in February.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
He's a lot older than I thought he was.
Yeah. I thought when I was saying 21 that I was wrong, but I wanted to double check. So yeah, he's 23. But yes, I think Haley is definitely, again, she needs, there's a lot she still has to learn about driving the cars. Yeah. Yes, she's won a few races in ARCA West, but we've seen before that once you get, up to those next couple steps, she's done okay in the ARCA National stuff. She's certainly been in contention on some of the bigger tracks to win and finish well. But hopefully they'll settle her into the Truck Series for a couple of years and really let her get to the point where she's running for wins every week and being very competitive before they rush her, because the gaps start getting larger. When you get to the Truck Series, then you want to go Xfinity. Xfinity's way more competitive than Trucks. And then when you go to Cup is way more competitive than Xfinity. Yep. So hopefully they'll allow her to grow into the part. And I think she talks like she wants to do that. She's in no big hurry. So I think she knows that her destiny is pretty much secured. It's just a question of when, so she can afford to take the time to prove her ability and learn how to drive the cars.
Yeah, and I think that becomes a problem with development talent. Is that a lot of times the Toyota team, the Chevrolet team, the Ford team want to push them too far, too fast.
Well,
Daniel Suarez is a perfect example of that. I feel like he wasn't quite ready to go to Cup, and look at him now.
I think he was ready to go to Cup. I don't think he was taken care of well at the Cup level.
Well, yeah, okay,
and
I'll give you that.
I didn't want to get. I think Eric kind of went through some of the same things, but I think again, I know that. I mean, every sponsor wants to be the sponsor of the next Danica Patrick. Everybody wants a female, and obviously manufacturers want. You know what I mean? You want, but I want to see Haley grow into a competitive racer who happens to be a female and not just be the next big female thing that gets the Cup because she's a female and Monster wants her there and then doesn't do well.
Right.
Because to me that doesn't serve her. It doesn't serve the sport, and it delegitimizes the whole process.
Right.
It shouldn't. She should need to prove herself at every level the same way anyone else does. And I think that was Danica's big issue, is she came in and she didn't have to do that. She was in Xfinity for 20 minutes and then she was into Cup. She it wasn't that she was totally uncompetitive, but she certainly did not live up to the equipment she had.
That's
and
true.
It's because she just didn't have enough time learning how a stock car works.
Mm-hmm. And GoDaddy kept funding the car, so therefore she kept the ride, even if she wasn't quite ready for the ride. So we are going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about the 3 drivers that have already made it into the playoffs, or into the final 4 of the playoffs, and we'll talk about this whole aspect of racing thing that we blew up Twitter personally about. We'll talk about that when we come back. More of the Inside Pass next.
This is Justin Lofton, and you're listening to the best guys on the radio, the Inside Pass.
My ears are bleeding a little bit after that, but see, I appreciate being. Well, I appreciate being gone for so long, but even like Nakia's been here the entire time and still makes a mistake. So,
and that's like Nakia's first mistake in 10 years
in life. That's her first mistake in life.
I mean, it's she's Nakia's a robot when it comes to production. She's amazing, but every once in a while you false start, and but the good news is for me it's Rush, so no problem.
It's fine. It's completely fine.
Yeah,
totally okay. Well, welcome back to the Inside Pass here on WSIC. Our thanks to Jordan Bianchi for joining us today.
Yes.
Next week on the show, I don't know. We need to get with whoever books the guest on the show and tell him to stop giving Nick so much airtime, because every time we give him airtime, it turns into, I'm an iRacer now. So I need to stop giving him so much airtime.
Yes, you do. See, the key is, for those listening, Randy books the guests.
So she knew the joke when I started saying it.
Yeah, exactly. Even Nakia knows the joke.
I love Nick DeGroot. He is such an awesome guy. And yesterday was his
awesome.
birthday, and I wished him happy birthday. He's 14. So
again,
14 again. But he'll be on the show next week to talk about himself, because that's what he likes to talk about.
I'm giving that one a ding.
And if he's listening right now, he's laughing on the inside.
Sure he is.
But anyway, welcome back to the show. So over the weekend, we had 3 drivers that have made it into the Final Four of the playoffs. Joey Logano somehow squeaked into the Final Four. He was not a name that I think, Tom and I talked about it during the break. I don't think you could find 5 people that would have voted Joey Logano into the race, although I think both of us think somebody picked him last week, so I'll have to look at the things when I get home, but somebody's fired. Anyway, but Logano made it in, so he's one of the 4 drivers that will compete for the championship in 3 weeks' time at Phoenix, so we assume, or at least based on the season we've had, we assume that Hamlin and Harvick are going to be 2 of the other ones, so that would leave only a couple of options. One would think that Chase would want to be in there too. I mean, they all want to be in there, but only 4 guys can be. So that remains to be seen what happens at Texas this weekend. Denny Hamlin is a former winner of that track, and I think he's the most recent winner of that track. So, I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Harvick's on the pole, by the way.
Yeah. The thing is, when you look at Joey too, you look at Team Penske actually. It's not surprising that Joey would be the first one in, because every year at this time Joey shows up. Mm-hmm. But they swapped crew chiefs all around before this season, and so Paul and Joey have meshed very well. Jeremy and Brad have meshed very well. Todd Gordon and Ryan Blaney, I'm not going to say they have meshed well. I don't want to invent problems that aren't there, but I'm just saying that the season that 12 cars had does not compare to the season that the 22 or the 2 have had for whatever reason. And so I can see the 2 car getting in. I don't think Ryan Blaney, of course, Ryan's not even in the...
He did make the playoffs, but he was
out.
Kicked out first round.
So, but again, I think Joey, of the 3 teams, I think that 22 team is the team that I would have said was most likely to win the title. I just watching the race last week would not have made Joey the winner until late in the race when it was obvious, and everybody's complaining about, the package, Harvick can't, get by him. He has a faster car. Look it's called racecraft, y'all.
He's won 7 races. Calm down.
Yeah, it's like this. It's racecraft. Joey was a better driver at the end of the race. Simple as that. He ran a good line. He made it really hard for Kevin to get any momentum to make a run. This is why it's Cup. And I'm not a fan of the package by any means, but I'm saying that I think that if you just simply say, given that we all think the package sucks and on speedways, I think this was a good race. I didn't say a great race, but I thought it was more entertaining than some of the other speedway races recently.
Okay. A
lot more comings and goings in front and a lot of battles for the top 5 spots, and that's all you can ask for.
Down in the Xfinity Series, Chase Briscoe won his 9th race of the season, which seems far-fetched, but he was one of the guys that we knew was going to be a pretty dominant driver this year, and 9 wins proves, which is why he's in the 14 car next year, because he said 8 wins would get me there. He got 9, and here's your prize for getting 9.
By the way, tell me again, all you NASCAR fans who say you can't make it to NASCAR without a big bunch of money, tell me again, about that. Chase Briscoe was sweeping floors at Cunningham Motorsports ARCA Series shop 5 years ago and sleeping on friends' couches. He had come over from Indiana and was doing anything he could to get a shot. Well, finally, Cunningham put him in an ARCA car. 5 years later, he's going to Cup. He didn't have a big bunch of money. Ford figured out that they had a real talent in Chase Briscoe, and they snapped him up, and they've gotten him where he is. But he came over here with nothing.
Yep. He came over here with the
talent still matters. At least to Tony Stewart.
And in the Truck Series, Brett Moffitt ended up making the Final Four. And I think that's the driver that we all picked, because I think a couple of us picked Brett Moffitt because we thought eventually he's going to win. And, well, there goes Brett Moffitt. He's in the championship 4 now with a shot to win the championship at Phoenix. And good job by GMS and all those guys to get him into the Final Four. Will he earn the championship trophy? That remains to be seen. I think, with the right timing, you obviously just have to be better than your other 3 competitors. So he really is only racing 3 guys, but at the same time, you got to have a good quality car or I guess truck underneath you as well.
Well, I don't know if he's only racing 3 guys. I mean,
for the championship.
For the championship, when they get there, there'll be 4. But I just, Brett's been there. He's been there, done that, won that. Got the T-shirt, got the trophy. Got the money. And again, he's championship material. Why he's still full-time in the truck instead of full-time in an Elite Cup car, I'll never understand. I don't know if people just don't like the stash or what the deal is, but I'm sure he'd be glad to shave if somebody would just put him in a good Cup car.
I mean, he's been competitive in the Xfinity car, too, the Our Motorsports car, and the Cup car, too. So, I mean, he obviously has the talent to make it. It's just one of those things where you get lost in the shuffle and, you end up being stuck in the Gander RV and outdoor or whatever. Camping World.
Future Camping World.
Thank God we're going back to Camping World.
Really.
We're just going to be, what is it, COTS or
it's
Camping World?
NCWTS now. So there's really no acronym anymore.
That's okay. I have 3 months. I have 3 months to come up with an acronym for that.
Yeah.
So anyway, our thanks to Jordan Bianchi for joining us. TheAthletic.com is an awesome website. He is very good at breaking news. It's either him or Adam Stern usually that break the news to the world. So they're on competing levels of I'm going to get you first. But follow them both on Twitter. I don't have Jordan's Twitter on me right now, but I will repost it for everybody on our social media accounts at the letter Inside Pass on Twitter. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please follow us on Twitter. We're always reposting and commenting on all the news of the day. You can also follow Race Chaser Radio, Race Chaser Media as well. Go to the website, view all the archives, see the show, hear the show. Throughout any of your favorite social media platforms. They've been poked today. Social media platforms. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. It's on Google. It's on Amazon Music. It's on a bunch of other new platforms.
At Jordan_Bianchi.
That's it right there. So make sure to follow him on Twitter. Always, if you want the latest breaking news, follow him. Follow Adam Stern. He's the capital A_12. On Twitter if you want to follow him as well. So for Tom Baker, I'm Randy Miller. Have a great race week. We'll see you guys next week here on the Inside Pass with some guy named Nick DeGroot. And they will be here tomorrow with Motorsports Madness. Have a great week, everyone. See you next time. Bye. Say bye, Tom.